Welcome to This Explainer, everyone. Today, we're unpacking what has to be one of the most frustrating paradoxes in modern American finance. I mean, on paper, household incomes have steadily climbed over the past few decades, so things look pretty good, right? But if you actually talk to ordinary folks, you hear a completely different story. So we're going to break down exactly what is happening to our paychecks, why it's happening, and crucially, what we can do about it. Here's the million-dollar question. Americans are earning more money than ever. So why does the middle class feel poorer? It is literally the defining financial question of our time. You know the exact feeling we're talking about here. You get the promotion. You see a higher number on your W-2 at the end of the year, but then you look at your bank account at the end of the month and you're still barely scraping by. Okay, let's dive into this. Section 1, the middle class squeeze. To really understand this squeeze, we have to investigate what's actually happening to the American middle class by looking at something called purchasing power. Now, this is simply your financial ability to buy products and services with a given amount of money. The core problem we're all facing today is that while your nominal salary, the actual dollar amount printed on your paycheck, might be rising, your purchasing power is actually falling. Sure, you might be making more dollars, but just one average trip to the grocery store proves that those dollars are significantly weaker than they used to be. Section 2. The rising cost of living. Now, what's really interesting about this slide is how it moves us from economic theory right into the harsh realities of everyday life. Just look at the massive slices taken up by housing, healthcare, transportation, and food. By the time these completely non-negotiable costs are subtracted from an average monthly paycheck, that tiny little sliver remaining for discretionary spending is almost non-existent. The absolute essentials are devouring your income before any of the fun spending even begins. Let's put some realistic numbers to this, starting with the biggest slice of the pie, housing. Take a look at this figure right here, $2,100. That is a very realistic example of the average monthly rent in many major U.S. cities right now. Whether you're renting an apartment or trying to buy a home, with the current interest rates and property taxes, housing costs have just surged so far past wage growth. I mean, if a massive chunk of your take-home pay is instantly vanishing on the first of the month just to keep a roof over your head, your financial anxiety is completely validated. You are not imagining it. But wow, housing is just the start. Surging healthcare premiums, rising insurance deductibles, and increasingly expensive grocery carts are acting like relentless, silent drains on your budget. And the kicker? You don't get a shiny new thing to show for this spending. You are literally just paying substantially more money to maintain the exact same standard of living you had, say, 5 years ago. And then, well, we have getting around. $700. That is an average new car payment in America today. No joke. In fact, auto debt in the U.S. recently crossed a staggering $1.5 trillion. When you add in insurance, gas, and maintenance, transportation has become a devastatingly expensive category. Think about it. That's $700 a month just depreciating in a driveway instead of compounding in an investment account. So what actually happens when the cost of housing, food, healthcare, and transportation completely exceeds a normal paycheck? Well, people turn to debt. As we can see with this household debt growth, millions of Americans are leaning incredibly heavily on credit cards. They're extending auto loans from 48 months out to 72 months, and they're carrying heavy student debt burdens just to bridge that gap. This creates a really vicious cycle where your interest payments further erode whatever purchasing power you had left. Moving on to Section 3, the lifestyle inflation trap. So the crucial point is, up until now, we've talked a lot about external economic forces, but we also really need to examine the internal, behavioral traps that make the squeeze so much worse, specifically lifestyle inflation. This is basically the habit of increasing your spending as your income goes up. You know how it goes. You get a raise, so you upgrade your apartment. You get a bonus, so you lease a nicer car. You start buying the fancy name brand groceries instead of the store brand. But listen, making a higher salary does not automatically translate into wealth if your expenses are rising at the exact same rate. It's really just running faster on the exact same treadmill. Section 4, making versus keeping money. And this brilliantly illustrates a really fascinating psychological divide that completely separates successful households from all the rest. On one side, we have looking rich, leasing new cars you can't really afford and maxing out credit cards just to maintain an image. But on the other side, we have being financially free. And this means prioritizing, investing, living below your means, and maybe driving an older, paid-off car. Financially successful households totally understand that keeping money is vastly more important than merely making it and spending it all just to look successful. Section 5. Steps to financial freedom. Let's move to and see how this builds, because now that we've properly diagnosed the problem, it's time to get actionable. Financially successful households consistently execute on 3 highly specific steps to escape the squeeze. First, controlling lifestyle inflation. Second, building a cash emergency fund. And third, actively increasing the gap between their income and their spending. So let's break these down one by one. Step 1 is all about controlling those lifestyle upgrades. This is your absolute first line of defense against the squeeze. See, when financially free individuals get a raise, they often pretend they didn't even get it. They just keep driving the exact same car, they stay in the exact same apartment, and they divert all that new money directly into investments or paying down debt. By capping their expenses while their income rises, they immediately start keeping way more of their money. Okay, step 2. This one is all about building a defensive wall. A solid cash emergency fund is completely vital to avoid taking on new debt. Let's face it, life is entirely unpredictable. A sudden medical bill or a major car repair, it's gonna happen eventually. And without a cash safety net sitting right there in a bank account, those emergencies go straight onto a high-interest credit card, which completely reopens that debt trap. Cash provides that necessary breathing room. And finally, we have step 3. Actively increasing the gap between your income and your spending. Honestly, this is the entire secret to personal finance visualized in one simple concept. True wealth is not determined by how big a paycheck is. It is determined entirely by the size of the gap between what is earned and what is spent. Keeping your basic expenses low while simultaneously increasing your earnings totally widens this gap. And that creates the surplus you need to build true, lasting wealth over time. So as we wrap up this explainer today, I really want to leave you with this final, powerful thought. Making more money matters, for sure, but keeping more of it matters even more. The goal isn't to look rich. The goal is to become financially free. I know, it's a subtle mindset shift, but it literally changes absolutely everything about how you navigate the modern economy. So ask yourself, are you working to look wealthy today or to actually be wealthy tomorrow? Thank you so much for joining me today. Please make sure to subscribe to Unwrap Global for more simple explainers on money, markets, and wealth. See you next time.